A senior US official says Russia is asking China for military assistance in Ukraine as the invasion extends into its third week. White House National Security Advisor Jake Sullivan said the US considers Russia-Chinese cooperation to be a concern to peace in Ukraine and all across the world, promising consequences for China if there are any large-scale efforts to help the Kremlin in this conflict.
Yeah, so what is Putin's plan for Ukraine and what would Chinese assistance look like? Now, Euan Grant is a former law enforcement intelligence analyst with service in the former Soviet Union and joins us now. Thank you very much, Euan.
Thank you.
You're fast becoming a regular. I mean, you've never been busier on this channel, I believe. Yeah. But what would Chinese involvement look like?
Well, I would think at the moment it's really more diplomatic and political. It would be sending a message that we are backing Russia, albeit not necessarily 100%. They would probably supply equipment which they have essentially got from the Russians themselves, or at least are compatible because they're based on Russian designs. Communications, jamming equipment for Ukrainian drones. As you know, the Ukrainian resistance there has been much heavier than the Russians anticipated. Communications equipment, not fighter aircraft, top-end stuff, because, of course, those have largely not been used.
On that point, I mean, I wonder if the operative word there is large-scale support, because, for example, we know that gaffe of Joe Biden when he said they would effectively accept minor incursions. And so do you think that the West would accept some support, really, from China?
Yes, in a word, yeah.
And isn't that the reality, really, that a lot of this is, saying that they're not going to accept it, but what could the US really do? They are not going to be getting into conflict with China. It is such an important regime to them.
It does really sound like something literally straight out of a Tom Clancy novel, except this time it's what I believe was his best book about Russia and China together, called Executive Orders, incredibly prophetic. But no, we would then have to, with the US in the lead, Britain close behind and still a major player, sadly, some countries in Europe, not the Nordic countries, but some countries in Europe lagging behind, to accelerate sanctions and oil and gas.
And do you worry about this, that this is now what we're going to be seeing, Russia moving closer and closer eastwards, becoming closer and closer to China? And this is the reality of the new global order, which is not just America anymore as the global police. We have China now as a big major player.
Yes, I'm afraid that's it. What it has done is accelerated it by quite a few years, I think. But let's not assume that war against Taiwan is going to break out tomorrow. The Chinese will be much more careful about that. Okay. It's still an uneasy relationship because, remember, Siberia is vast. It has huge natural resources. Parts of it are claimed by China historically.
Yes, I mean, China, obviously, it's important to say, is denying that Russia has asked for help, but also, of course, China said that COVID didn't leak from a Wuhan lab, so you've got to take everything with a pinch of salt. But
great analogy, yeah.
Would we actually know if China was offering aid to Russia, or if they did give it? They presumably tried to cover it up, but would we definitely be able to tell?
We would. I think the issue is just how quickly. And the answer, I think, is fairly quickly. With what degree of evidence? I actually think the US and the UK have played it pretty well in leaking, or not leaking, openly disclosing intelligence information. Others in the alliance, please copy.
Right, OK. Now, we had a gentleman on there, Alexei's call, who's a member of the Ukrainian parliament, who reported to us, frankly, live from a bomb blast that had just gone off, actually, right at the start of this show. A very, very brave chap indeed. His message was loud and clear. He wants us to send aircraft, right? He wants them to send aircraft over there. He says, look, we've already got anti-aircraft weapons. He said, we don't, this business of escalation, it's escalated as far as he's concerned. They're in the middle of a full-blown war. Do you think we should send aircraft over there? Would that result in potentially China sending aircraft to help the Russians? Do they need that help? I don't know.
Well, that would be a real Rubicon for the Chinese. As you know, the Chinese use designs which have actually been supplied by Russia or copied. Not all the Russian top brass are happy about that latter point. Yeah. But if they did, that would be a real Rubicon. I frankly think we will still hold off. the risks are too great. That may mean it's too late for Ukraine.
Well, that's it, isn't it?
Yeah.
But on that point as well, I mean, it's part of the reason why we're holding off is that we are not militarily capable. I mean, we've just seen Germany now remilitarize in quite a historic shift in strategy, but actually we have been plummeting our military. We have been eroding our military strength for decades now. And actually, even if we wanted to, realistically speaking, very few countries in the EU and in Europe more broadly are really capable of doing that.
In the air, it's a bit different. The US air capability, particularly in combat air, is still very formidable. And that is seeking through to a number of European countries, the F-35, and that acting as a feeder for the fourth generation aircraft like the Typhoon. But yes, on the ground, and I'm afraid to say you've hit a few sensitive points. The EU approach to Russia, and I say the EU centrally in Germany, has been very naive for a long time, and I mean naive with a capital N, and it's now coming home to roost. So it's going to take years to rebuild.
OK, all right. And just talk to me
But we
about...
have the air. We are formidable in the air, very much so.
Now, obviously, you operate in the sphere of intelligence around the Soviet Union, and I'm quite keen to get your take, really, on the mood in Moscow, the mood in the Kremlin regarding Putin. Right? Is he an isolated chap now? Are there fears genuinely for his mental well-being amongst the top brass? Could that result in some kind of assassination attempt or something like that? Or actually, is everything fine for Putin?
No, it isn't fine for him. He clearly will be a very worried man. He knows that he's been given bad advice by his advisors. He knows, although he'll never admit it, why that is. They're too scared to give him the advice. Exactly. We've been here before, haven't we? 1941.
Well, exactly.
But I think Mark Galeotti, not surprisingly, has been writing some great sense on that. A coup toppling him is possible, but let's be realistic, not likely.
And how do you get to him is the thing as well, you know? How would people really get to him?
Oh, well, there's the point. He has his close personal guard.
Is it true that he won't let Sergei Lavrov retire? I've heard that he wants his defence guy to stay around, and he's apparently refusing to let him retire because he's been fed so much duff information in the past. He believes he's someone that he can trust.
Well, I'm not sure he would really trust Lavrov, but Lavrov, remember, of course, is the foreign minister.
Foreign minister, sorry.
With, of course, a surprising number of assets.
Oh, huge amounts, actually. In fact, his daughter paid for a multi-million-pound house in, I believe it was Chelsea, his stepdaughter. There's some squiffy areas there. In cash, apparently.
Yeah. That kind of thing has been known about for years, and had we acted with the US and with the Europeans, because a lot of this in Europe as well, we wouldn't be. I think we would not be in this mess.
Well, look, thank you very, very much. Expert, as always, Euan Grant there, of course, whizzing you through essentially the latest from the intelligence world about what's been going on in Ukraine. Thank you very, very much, as always.